I'm really excited to hear from Joel Canfield. He's the Vice President of Development for the Lakeway Regional Medical Center. His responsibilities and a little bit of the history is he has been responsible for recruiting the physicians for the project and the original raising of $20 million in equity for the project. He's working with different pad site owners for physician and commercial leasing at this time, and he also deals a lot with physician service line project management. He'll have to tell you exactly what that is, but Joel Canfield. Joel?
Hi, my name is Joel Canfield. Thank you, Dr. Kirk, for the introduction. I appreciate that. The explanation is kind of verbose and long, and really when it comes down to it, I end up just kind of being the point person amongst all the moving pieces in this project that's here in Lakeway all the time, kind of has the closest relationship with all the contractors and the physicians and some of the players in the group. So although the description sounds like it's pretty fancy, it's actually not all that terribly interesting at all. And thank you, Dr. Kirk, for your plea for the bond issue. I know my wife and I moved out here a couple years ago, and we have 2 young kids, one of the reasons being because of the fine schools that are out here, so I definitely appreciate the importance of that as that moves forward. To give you an introduction, I know there's been a lot of press and a lot of other talks and things, so hopefully I can bring this today to be something of value in addition to what's been put out there. But what I'll do is I'll go through the scope of where we're at and what we're doing in the project just to give context to what we're doing and how that affects what's going to happen this next year, and try to dial that down as some details of what to actually see and expect on the site. So going forward, the Lakeway Regional Medical Center is just one pad site owner on that 54 acres in total that encompasses the whole development. In addition to that, we have a group called Surgical Development Partners, who is our management company for the hospital. They're the group that's been responsible for bringing all the financing to the group, helping us organize the investment kind of component of it, all the pre-opening operations, and then they have a management contract for the hospital once that gets up and running and moves forward. Pacific Medical Building is one of our equity partners, and they are a medical office developer. They're doing the office building in the center campus. It'll have most of the physicians and specialists in it. They're doing that with a joint venture with a company called Aqualand Development. You've seen the big signs out on the site. Aqualand is the horizontal developer, so they're the group that's brought all the utilities and all the activities to ready the pad sites for the players like the hospital and the medical office building companies to take over from there. In addition, like I said, Aqualand's the group, and then on the front portion of the project, there's a mixed-use retail building that's got a front 620 and Flint Rock Trace right there in the corner, where eventually there'll be a stoplight and a road expansion that'll go through there. A group called SCC Development out of Austin is the group that's running that. There'll be some mixed medical stuff, restaurants, gyms, traditional retail stuff, all in that hard corner right there in front of the hospital. So those are the big players. Going forward, what you're going to see on the site, it's been the last 8 or 9 months has been a pretty dramatic move forward with all the construction physically coming out of the ground and the cranes and all the exciting things you see. That's going to start to cool off a little bit because as we go forward, once they conclude with the vertical construction of the building, start to wrap the inside of it, put the windows on and everything else, it's going to look like it's dead. You're going to see lots of cars out there, but you're not going to see a lot of dramatic visual activity moving forward since all the activity at that point will be inside. So we'll go quiet there and for a period of time until the hospital actually physically opens. But so over this next year, we're looking at wrapping up the outside of the building sometime in the spring, summer, maybe into the early fall when they actually conclude and do the residual, all the activity on the outside. So once that happens, you'll see more site work done around. You'll see the hospital parking garage conclude, and then you'll obviously start to see all the other pad sites start to come out of the ground in addition to the hospital itself. Delivery date, the contractors will have the building ready for occupancy at the end of April of 2012. So give us a month or 2 to get in there and turn the lights on and such. And so spring, early summer of 12 will be open, licensed, and operational. The first phase of expansion, you've seen a lot of things in the paper that talk about the economic impact that Mr. Jones talked about and all the moving pieces that surround that and how that really dials into everyone here's business activities in the surrounding area. This is the first phase that'll have 103 licensed beds and 176 total beds. In the state of Texas, you tend to judge the size of the hospital, how many licensed beds, even though that isn't really necessarily related to how many physical beds are in the hospital, but the licensed beds is kind of the key number. So we start off with 103. First phase of expansion, which they're predicting will happen sometime within the first 12 months that the hospital is open, will take us to somewhere between 200 and 250 beds. So significant expansion moving forward. And then the building itself in the third phase has the capacity to go up to close to 450 beds total, licensed beds. So as that moves forward, you will see we're predicting that first year an additional expenditure and additional construction project that will start happening as that bumps forward. Real quick to talk about just the scope, and this has been talked about before, but this is a full-service regional medical center. And what's exciting about that is this is akin to some of the bigger hospitals in town that have the full scope of services from 24/7 emergency room, 25 beds to start out with, all board-certified physicians, all the way up to neurosurgery, EMS, all those other components. Inside that scope, we've got general surgery, bariatric surgery, all the gastro procedures, urology. We're doing the Da Vinci robot procedures for urology and for OB services. Labor and delivery, we have a full scope of imaging and lab inside the hospital. Cardiology, orthopedic surgery, all the normal stuff you'd expect, neurosurgery. We have a neonatal ICU, so to complement the labor and delivery component that we're bringing, we have a very, very skilled, highly specialized group of neonatologists that will be servicing the hospital. So, God forbid something were to happen in a labor and delivery situation, we have the capacity to take care of very, very, very sick children at this facility without having to be shipped, to more appropriate places like Dell. On the campus itself, so just the hospital building will be one element of the delivery of care. In the medical office building that will be in the central campus, we'll have a whole litany of other services that will go through there, including primary care center for almost extended access, minor emergency type care. We have an outpatient cancer center. We'll have a full scope of radiation and medical oncology with a linear accelerator. We have a sports medicine orthopedic program for high school athletes, weekend athletes, and semi-pro athletes. And then we have the Western Travis County Hub. I guess this is my term. I don't think this is the official term, but we have a housing unit that we're preparing for the EMS to where not only will they have service to the hospital, but they'll be staying on campus for their overnight stays, and so they'll have all the ambulance activity housed inside that campus that we're providing for them. Site development update as far as the commercial side. The building in the center, that's the mixed use, mostly medical office building, is about 80,000 square feet. You're going to see that start to take shape sometime here in the late spring. That deliverable is probably March or February of 2012, so they'll have that open a couple months before the hospital opens. So you'll start to see some activity there. Aquilin Development, who's responsible for the pad sites that are selling on top of the total development, they have a strong LOI from a assisted living group that they're going to be putting kind of on the back side. If you look at the development straight on forward, kind of to your left, kind of as you go up the hill, there's two big pad sites in the back that'll house an assisted living center, which is a great complement for us, for the hospital, and a great complement for them having those services real close by. The front building, which SCC has under contract and is moving forward with, is about 70,000 square feet. From what I understand, they've got that significantly pre-leased, and that activity should start construction-wise sometime this spring as well, probably about the same time the center medical office building starts to begin. Some of the physical things you'll start to see outside of just those pad site developments, and this unfortunately ties to construction and traffic and trucks on the road and all those kind of issues that we don't love about the fact that the project's coming here. But like I mentioned before, there's a stoplight that's going to eventually be planned for that Flint Rock Trace 620 hard corner where the hospital's at. That will be a boulevarded road that will go in and back, connect back to Wild Cherry, and then kind of make a loop through the hospital complex. It's Medical Parkway, it's called. So that road expansion work should start sometime this spring as well to be delivered before the hospital opens. So that'll be a significant visual piece of the component. As far as the physicians that we've got in this project, this was originally a traditional physician-owned facility akin to many of the other places you've seen before economically, like, for example, the Westlake Medical Center, Austin Surgical Hospital, and many other facilities nearby. With legislation changes, we've had to evolve that model to some extent. So now I have to say that we have 100+ physician partners in our deal today. They're not equity owners, but they have a strong presence, they have management responsibilities, and they're tied to the hospital financially as we kind of start to open the thing. So, like I said, we've got 100 folks on the list from the full scope of all those activities that I mentioned before and service lines. In addition to that, there's new doctors coming to town all the time. They're coming from out of state and out of the city and other areas of Texas. They're really excited about the project. This is in the medical world, culturally a very different project in the sense that it is very strongly physician managed, and it ends up being almost somewhat by necessity the other white meat of the other hospitals that are in Austin, in the sense that we have to offer something different than is what is existing out there. So in this changing environment of healthcare, we provide a service and an environment that is very attractive to a lot of physicians because they still have some autonomy and they still have some control over the quality of care and the delivery of care, which acts as a stark contrast against some of the corporate medical hospital type facilities that are out there now. So recruiting wise, that's been positive for us. We have a lot of great response from a lot of physicians around the area. As always, if anyone, realtors in the room, end up talking to physicians about the project, we'd love to help out with that, so please let me know. I get asked all the time about what's the timeline. Like, can you say there's all these doctors coming, all this new business that's going to surround the hospital? The timeline, how quickly that uptick kind of starts to happen is what's really in question. From what we've understood and what we've seen to date, I think that physicians moving to the hospital will probably be something that will be closer to when the facility actually opens. And then the businesses that surround that are like healthcare synergistic type businesses or things that are supportive of the additional influx of population will probably be somewhere near the hospital opening and soon after in the coming months and the coming years. So that pace we'll see as the economy recovers and as that moves forward, but we're very enthusiastic about all the contacts we've made and the people that are coming to the project, and are very excited about what we're doing. That's kind of everything in a nutshell. Before I forget, I left a lot of packets in the back that have my email address and my cell phone number, so if I can be a resource to anyone, I would love to do so. And also take the opportunity today to thank Mayor Diome and Steve Jones and everyone else at the city for how much support they've given us and how they have made this project be able to come to the surface in a time that was, as everyone knows, rather challenging to get capital and then bring projects of this size and scope to fruition. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate the community support that's been given to us so far. If there's any other questions, obviously I'll be available after this, but we're very, very excited about what's going on so far and very thankful for the opportunity to bring this project to Lakeway.